It's time for our weekly segment with Max Olson of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
First and throw. Smith and Jigba's open. And again, Stroud drops it in. Stiff arm all the way to the end zone. Touchdown, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Max Olson of The Athletic joins us now. SicEm 365 Radio, 365 Sports. And Max, next week we might actually get to talk about, actual games and things coming up. But again, huge off-field news today in this Big Ten TV deal. What jumped off the page at you about some of the specifics of this now that we actually know what is in this deal as opposed to what's being speculated?
Yeah, lots of details out there this morning about what logistically this looks like. It's interesting it'll be interesting to see the Big Ten title game on different networks over that 7-year period. I think certainly doing a 7-year deal makes a lot of sense for the Big Ten because it's kind of like the pro athlete, right? Like sometimes you want to take that short deal because this stuff is just going to keep inflating and be worth even more here down the road. And the fact the Big Ten can go back to market again before the SEC just means that they are going to be able to hold on to this position, I would think, for quite a long time. So an impressive job by Kevin Warren in putting this all together. And obviously, guys, when you talk about $7 billion, at what point do we have to actually pause and say, come on, guys, the student athlete deserves a chunk of that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They're not in the now that they're in the buh and not the m. It's almost impossible to make that argument. It's almost impossible. I don't know how you could.
The money, that number is just going to keep, at least for the SEC and the Big Ten, we know, obviously, that number is just going to keep going up. And so I just don't know how you can, continue to defend amateurism and the way it's always been as that stuff just keeps exploding. So certainly I think these are the sort of things that will, drag us down that road over time. I don't know how quickly, but when you talk about, all the issues that are going on right now, certainly you can understand why when you throw all that money into the pot there, football players being on contracts is going to make sense someday.
Max, if I were the Pac-12, and correct me if I'm wrong, nothing in this deal that was announced today should make me feel good about my future. And to some extent, even the Big 12 and anyone else, right, that could be a target of future expansion because there's nothing that says we're done, we're stopping, this is where we're going to be right now.
Yeah, I think that, it probably would be naive to just sit here and think Kevin Warren's done. I think that's, and I'm not saying that based on people I've talked to about things that are cooking right now. I'm just saying that realistically, with what they've done in adding USC and UCLA, and obviously the UCLA stuff is kind of in an interesting spot right now. But if Kevin Warren wants to, add West Coast partners for those 2 schools, then nothing's going to stop him. And the money that he can offer, it's real. It's not hypothetical. Hey, if you come over here, then I think you're going to do better than you would in the Pac-12. This is now real money. And so, I think that that's the fascinating thing. Now, obviously Notre Dame factors into all of that. The ACC situation with that grant of rights and will anyone actually contest it factors into that. But yeah, certainly if you're the Pac-12, you're not, you're still going to have to feel uneasy that until you have a grant of rights that locks up your 10 remaining members. I think that if the Big Ten wants to make a move, if Kevin Warren wants to do that, he can do so. And
Craig brought this up earlier. He actually had to run off to Baylor practice real quick. But the 2030s, I would say 2032, 2033 could be really, really, really interesting, given that you would have so many TV deals coming up at the same time, and now probably an expanded playoff and all that feeding into this on how this could really shake things up.
What year did you say? 32?
Like 32, like somewhere in there between, like where the SEC deal comes up, and the ACC is within, like, oh, we're within a presidential election cycle of being out of this death contract, and
yeah,
and all that.
I don't know if that. I mean, will there be an NCAA that controls college football by 32? I'm guessing probably not.
I think there's going to be one by 2024. So
the landscape a decade from now, like, can you? I mean, it's probably just going to look like, at least at the highest level, will probably kind of look like semi-pro sports by that point in time. And these TV deals, absolutely factor into that. And you look at the way that the Big Ten decided to set up their deal with their windows, of early afternoon and night, and the channels they're going to be on. I mean, it's set up like the NFL.
Yeah, it mirrors it completely. That you're all day. If you just want to watch one game a day or one game an hour, or a time slot, and you're a Big Ten fan, you can just go. You have to change the channel 2 times. That's all you have to do, 2 times during the day.
Now, are you a Peacock guy?
I have it because I am a huge fan of The Office, and it's the only way that you can watch The Office in Parks and Rec. So I did get Peacock. Now, outside of that, I've watched a couple things on it, but, it's just like any other app, right?
No, for sure. We have Peacock as well, and that's purely to watch Parks and Recreation and those extended episodes of The Office at this point. But, certainly the live sports movement over there is going to be an adjustment for some people.
Yeah, well, I mean, the basketball alone, Max, I think is going to be kind of wild because they have a whole bunch of basketball that's exclusive to there. And were you surprised that Amazon and Apple didn't get involved this round?
No, not really. I think you talk to some of these commissioners and they're not sure how seriously to. I mean, certainly the Pac-12 is very serious about courting Apple and Amazon and trying to, achieve some big payday through one of these streamers. Now, do you want to do all of your rights to the streamers? I think that's probably not a good idea. I think probably for your brand and your growth of your conference, you still need to be on a linear network. But I know the Pac-12 is going to be pursuing that because they've gotten lowballed by ESPN, or if they've even been offered by ESPN, and Fox is not pursuing the Pac-12 at this time, at least in that exclusive window. So I'm sure the Pac-12 will chase that money. I'm sure the Big 12 will have talks with them. But no, at this point in time, not. I'm sure that Kevin Warren looks into those avenues, and I think they could get involved here down the road with one of these conferences. But this is clearly a very Fox-led move here for the Big Ten, and huge success for Kevin Warren.
Now, one of the things that I don't think it's gotten buried, but it was reported yesterday that yes, expansion talks may move up a little bit. Governance might change outside of college football, and we'll talk to the governance thing in a second. But Max, don't you think it's interesting that the Big Ten, threw a wrench in the machine of early playoff expansion last year, and now that they suddenly all of a sudden have everything they could have ever possibly wanted and more, they're open to the idea, and maybe it could happen.
Well, again, the Big Ten is exclusively now pretty much in partnership with Fox, and if you expanded the playoff into the current contract, then Fox doesn't get a piece of that, and so you have to assume that factored into Kevin Warren's planning here. It's not just that taking it to market generates more money, but it generates access for Fox to playoff rights and games and all that. So I think that's a big part of it. That there's interest in. I think a lot of people agree that the playoffs should be expanded. To what format, I guess we'll see. But that ESPN versus Fox battle on these things, it factors into trickles into all these other things that are going on, and that's including realignment. And so that's I kind of see those interconnected a little bit. And now that Kevin Warren and the Big Ten have this deal done, how much will they change their tune, and how much will they work in cooperation with the SEC on expansion? That'll be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, he's kind of backed off of everything. All hardline stances that he had a year ago. But winning the lottery, well, it's not what he did, but I mean, striking oil like they have, absolutely, will make you change your perspective on things, I think.
I think so, and that's why it's also why it's hard to, clearly what happened last summer gave people pause about the playoff proposal. That this makes sense, but then when the Oklahoma Texas thing happens, it makes everybody a little bit uneasy about where it's actually going and what's the, what is the end game here for the SEC, and now you have to wonder that as well for the Big Ten.
Yeah, I also brought up, and it was brief in that meeting yesterday, was about the Power 5 schools, the CFP kind of taking over running college football. Is that the model that we'll get first, or will do you think they'll separate more sports out as well? Like basketball can have a commissioner, college football has a commissioner in its own league, and everything is kind of in its own little pockets.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I haven't kind of fantasized what that all looks like, but certainly that conversation. I was in Nashville a couple of weeks ago for a conference of recruiting staffers from throughout college football, and that's a group that you hear it from them, you hear it from ADs and a lot of folks. There's definitely a belief that, look, in order to combat the issues we're dealing with right now, there should be a commissioner of college football. There should be actually someone in charge. Actually somebody, handing down penalties and applying enforcement and all that. And I think that, now what does that model look like? Is it run through the CFP? You've seen that kind of speculated about. Is it run differently? I don't know. Certainly the NCAA transformation stuff is going on, but in terms of breaking off from the NCAA, certainly you've heard Greg Sankey and lots of these commissioners express their grievances. And is that what the future looks like for college football, at least at the highest level? Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. And I do think that need for, having a commissioner type, someone that actually is kind of running things, makes sense. And you've heard Mike Gundy and all sorts of people point that out. Right now, it just really feels like nobody's in charge.
Okay, if you were the Big 12 and the Pac-12, and I probably have a different answer for either of them, are you happy that this Big Ten TV deal is done, or are you more nervous that it's done?
I think in terms of the order of operations for the Pac-12 situation, they're happy that it's done because, their 30-day window that they initiated to get going on their TV deal, conflicted with this Big Ten thing, and they knew that the Big Ten deal had to get done before they could really have meaningful conversations with ESPN and Fox. And so, I from that standpoint, like at least the Pac-12 can get going now on their situation and get clarity on what do their partners want to do and can they go to market here and explore the streamers and those other options. For the Big 12, I mean, I don't know that it makes a huge difference. I think you knew the payday was going to be significant. That ultimately, a few years from now, the Big 12 has to come up with whatever arrangement it can that maintains and grows its money and its revenue distribution to its members. So, in some ways, is it helpful that Big Ten's like showing you what the market rate looks like right now? Yeah, a little bit. I'm sure that Brett Yormark is interested to kind of get some sense of where they're at. But right now it's the Big 12 stuff is not going to get initiated, I don't think, soon in terms of the TV talks. But it is clarifying for both sides a little bit in terms of knowing where ESPN is and where they are is not involved with the Big Ten.
Are you getting out? Are they sending you on the road in week 0? I'm
not going to Dublin for Nebraska Northwestern. I will not be doing that. I will be watching it from home. No, I've got a couple trips lined up. One of them being coming down to the great state of Texas for Alabama, coming down to Austin. I'm looking forward to that, but still got to figure out the plans here a little bit.
All right, I know you know Austin well, Max. When you go to Austin,
right,
are you more excited about going to excellent restaurants that you were, or seeing that game that you know well?
Wow, that's yeah. I think you got me figured out pretty good there, Paul.
Well, I live in the same.
Getting back to Austin for sure, and finding good places to eat and drink. Yeah, that we're looking forward to. My wife and my son are coming down with us for the game, and they're definitely more excited about Austin than about an 11 a.m. kickoff on a Saturday and 100 degrees or whatever it's going to be.
Hey, look, how your son's what, 2 now?
1.5.
One and a half. So it'll be his first taste of like Austin barbecue. Like it's a huge moment in any kid's life.
That's right. Yeah, you got to cut that up real small when you put it on the kid's plate. But yes, I think I think it's time for those kind of endeavors for sure.
First steps, first word, first barbecue. It's all in everybody's baby book. I know how it works, Max. All right.
I think 18 months is an apportionate time to introduce it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. It's, if you can get him liking the stuff that you like earlier, it's better that you don't have to go to a restaurant and always order macaroni and cheese.
Except for when it's, Monday night at our house and he's asking for brisket and I have, I kind of need 24 hours to put that together.
Yeah, that's true. I did not think about it from that respect. Max, always appreciate it. Talk to you again next week.
Thanks, man.
All right, that's Max Olson of The Athletic with us here on Sick 'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Hey, Garrett,